Hey everybody, I think we should do some more hard milling. If you watched my last video on hard milling, you may have noticed it didn't go super well. But the parts we're making today should be a little bit simpler and aren't gonna have that same problem geometry that the last parts had. Even more importantly than that, these are going to be gifts, so our quality standards are a little bit lowered compared to customer parts. Not that I don't want these to be nice gifts, but like, there's not a drawing to go with them, so if the dimension's a little bit off, who cares? You may recognize our exact same setup from that hard milling video, and that is because I'm using some of the leftover stock to make these parts. This is 6062 Rockwell A2 steel. It's already been hardened and precision ground to about 1/8 of an inch. It's a little bit oversized from 1/8 of an inch. This is fixtured using the super glue method to this big block of steel that I just have in my vise. This is what we're gonna be making today. This is a fairly small knife. I don't know enough about the knife world to properly give this a name, a small skinner maybe. But from the material I have on the machine, I should be able to get 3 out in one go. They will of course take a second op, but I have them designed to only need one piece. I don't need to add any sort of extra handle. It should be a nice lightweight, general purpose kind of camp knife. My biggest worry about making these is that when we remove the top half of this material, it's going to banana on us. I had some problems with this material doing that on my last job where I used it, and it's very possible that it'll do it here again. I'm hoping that because these knives are basically full thickness, that it'll leave this piece enough rigidity to avoid that tendency to warp. Though I am still removing a lot of material off the top here, so that internal stress could be an issue. If I had been smart, I probably would have 3D printed some more prototypes of this knife. I 3D printed one prototype and then made some revisions based off of that one prototype, but I haven't actually prototyped the knife that we are about to machine. So fingers crossed that it'll be comfortable and ergonomic when it comes off the machine. At very least, the one thing I am confident of is we can make it look pretty, and for a gift, maybe that's all that matters. All right, we should be all good to go. So the file's pulled up on here. I just need to hit start, slowly turn up our max velocity here. We should do a tool change and then go ahead and start cutting. Again, we're just doing this all with air blast. That's taking kind of a big cut, but it's handling it all right. So this was probably inevitable, but we ended up breaking a tool. It looks like it happened in this little tight section here, but I knew that was happening. I could see this burr forming, which was a good sign the tool was getting dull. On the bright side, I think I can actually, with the new tool, take a much deeper width of cut, but when it went around the outside, the stock was a little bit too long, and it very happily did a depth of cut that was, much, much, much bigger than it was doing in this area here. So I'll get a new tool loaded up and I'll try that again. I'll double my depth of cut. At least on this adaptive path, those finishes are looking really good. That's just the floor of an adaptive. I kind of hate hard milling, but I also kind of love it. All right, I have the new version of the code all ready to go. This time we're doing 3 times the width of cut. So we should be able to hit cycle start on this. I didn't get a ton of video of it, but it did run overnight, and it looks like for at least the most part, it did pretty well. Now, I did notice that this little thin section here did certainly warp quite a bit and popped off the glue. And it looks like that knife is still in place, this one is loose, and that one is still in place. It seems like this one popped off at the last minute. I don't really see anything obviously wrong with it. It looks fine. Just for consistency reasons, I think I'm going to come back and do a facing pass. I was originally planning on leaving the top there at full thickness, but I can feel just a very, very small little ledge there. It's just, I don't know, probably 1/1000th or two. It's barely noticeable with your fingernail. It's obviously very visible because the difference between the ground finish and the machine finish. But I just want that to all be the same. So on these two that are left, I'm going to do a facing pass, and then we'll pop them off and try to set up for op 2. Uh-oh. Stop, stop, stop. Okay, maybe we don't do that. This one gets a accent cut, I suppose. Do we let it run the last one is the question. I don't know if I got it on video, but that one made it almost all the way around before popping off. Okay, well, apparently I need the extra support of the remaining material when I do that cut. Otherwise, there's just not enough surface area. It looks like my glue adhesion on the part itself was actually bad. If my glue was good, I should see an equal amount of glue here as on the fixture. And for some reason, it didn't stick to this surface very well. But I can just finish these faces up with my belt sander, and nobody will know. Yeah, so with just a little bit of time on the belt grinder, they're not perfect yet, but I'll do a full finishing step later. I want to give this a little bit more contour, I think, now that I'm holding these, and they'll be fine. That being said, I think I'm going to go ahead and with those code changes that I just made, I'm going to run 3 more, a whole nother batch so that I can have 6 finished ones. But overall, the design seems about what I was going for. I was kind of wanting something that you could like choke up really high on if you're doing something like that. Otherwise, if you want to grab here, that's reasonably comfortable. It's not perfect, but it's not terrible. So you can grab it kind of like that. You can do that. If you wanted to go like that, it's actually pretty comfortable like that. So, and once it's all deburred, there will be kind of a nice fidget factor where you could spin it on your finger, which I know is dangerous, but people also like fidgeting with knives. So I think that'll work out all right. I guess you could put 2 fingers in there too. I'm not sure I would sell this design yet, but in terms of a Christmas gift, I think it is pretty darn good. The finishes on the blade are looking decent. Well, there I belt ground. A little bit streaky on the sides. But we're getting there. I got a little bit too aggressive on my speeds and feeds. I turned them up after that last program, hoping to remove a little bit of time, but obviously I pushed it a little too hard. It's another day now, and I have another set of these knives complete. So these ran overnight. They seem to have worked just fine. And actually, I should say, they went much better. So this time I did that facing before I went around the perimeter, and obviously all 3 knives are still in place. And because there's no manual grinding on these, they look a ton better. So didn't have any problems with that running overnight. Now I did make one change where I didn't go down as deep around the perimeter. So there might still be an onion skin. Let's see how easily these come off. That is, of course, the flip side of this. Oh, there we go. Yeah, perfect. And they are still onion skinned in. All right, I'm hoping these will come out without too much hard persuasion. You hoping to get another angle? Good girl. All right, so I'm hoping I can pop these out. Stand back a little bit, okay? Can you go a little bit farther back? Thank you. Oh, okay, that came out. Does that one came out? That came out easily. What if I try a mallet? I should be wearing safety glasses for this. Hey girl, stand back a little bit. I'm afraid of these little metal pieces going flying. They can be springy. Ow, see, like that. Those little onion skins left lots of these little sharp, basically razor blades around. And the edge of these knives right now is very, very sharp. Ironically, this is probably more dangerous now than it will be once I finish machining and sharpening it. But overall, it's looking a lot better than my last attempt. I just need to machine the other side now. Now, you guys may be wondering how I plan on holding these to machine the second side. We call this op 2. The most traditional method would be to take out this big block of steel, put some pieces of aluminum in place of these jaws here, and cut in some pockets that we can use to grab onto this weird geometry. Those are called soft jaws. That would be the obvious way. Another way we might be able to do it is using something like this mag chuck, or a less traditional but my preferred method would be to cut a matching pocket right into this block of steel and glue it in place, much like we did the first operation. But that seems like a lot of work, so I want to try something new with these. I have made a mistake. I made my 3D printed fixture for the wrong side of the knife. I'm sure it's been done before, but I've never gotten a chance to try it out myself. This may not work, it may be great, I have no clue yet. I have 3D printed a pocket that this is gonna sit in. I'm gonna put some glue in there, I'm gonna press it in, and that will be our fixture. I have that bore there to act as a locating feature. So I need to take this block of steel out, I need to get this glued in there, and then get this located in the vise and probe that in. In terms of getting this thing mounted into the fixture, I figured I would use regular super glue. The fancy super glue is not gonna do much good here. And I'm hoping this will act as some like bedding to make sure if there's any mismatch between the part and the fixture, it'll still take up any room for vibration. I'm gonna start with one of the worst knives in case this goes wrong. And I'm gonna deburr that current corner. Sorry, I just had to run off and deburr a burr. I had to remove a burr that was right there. But I'm hoping that I can just kind of press this in. Oh yeah. It's maybe a little bit tight on the tip. So I'm going to make sure everything that gets pushed in, I think I'm just gonna throw it in my vise and try very carefully not to overdo it. Look at that, perfect fit. Hopefully that works out. I'm gonna adjust my model for this thing to give a little bit more room for the tip for when I print another one of these. But I will check back in with you guys in like half an hour when that glue's dry. Well, it's either gonna work or it won't. There's only one way to find out. The first step on this is, of course, to do a little bit of probing. We need to find the center of that bore to locate our fixture, which we can do with a single button click, thanks to PathPilot. And then I'm gonna set my Z0 point right here at the top center of the knife. That should do it. The tip right here is definitely sticking up a little bit, which could result in a thinner section in this portion, but I think it'll be fine, and we got 5 more knives after this that we can play with. So I am right now reprinting a new fixture for the next one that has some relief there that should be enough to make sure that there's no problems. My file is all loaded in here, and we should be good just to hit cycle start. Okay, I'm turning down my max velocity, hitting cycle start. It should go up and do a tool change here. Starting off with that same 3/16 inch 5 flute that I've been using for basically everything at this point. And it should slowly ramp down into the material. All right, it's ramping. I went fairly conservative on this roughing operation. It should be nice and gentle. We obviously don't have the best work holding here, so we want to make sure it's not going to move our part at all. I think it just finished up the ramping move. All right, it's done. Let's see what we're working with here. Huh. It didn't get most of the blade here, and obviously it didn't finish that. I wonder if the knife moved down on me or something, because the fillets aren't quite complete. Maybe my 0 point was just too high, except that's weird because the roughing should have, like, this finishing tool path should have still worked. Did my tool slip? No? It must have moved. Let me reprobe my 0 and see how much it shifts by. I'm gonna convince the machine that its door is closed so I can probe with the door open. Please fetch tool 99. And I'm gonna jog it back over that center point. Okay, and so I have a button that lets me probe the work coordinate system, but I can also just probe for the difference. So if I push that, it'll just touch off and then not change my work coordinate system. And yeah, okay, so that changed by 6 thou farther down. So I guess I'll just go ahead and probe that now and then rerun that contouring toolpath. So at some point here, my fixture shifted. Either the knife got forced farther into the plastic or something happened. Maybe it rotated, I don't know. But we changed by quite a bit. Now I'm going to tell the machine the door's open and then actually close it this time. And we'll go to our file here and I'm gonna type in find T2 and this will let me search the document. It just found that first line and then the T25 and then the T. There we go. Okay, so that's where the T2 gets used. I'm gonna hit start with a Z plunge. Turn down that, hit go. It should do a tool change here. Oh, it's going to do a tool change to tool 25, and then it's going to go back to tool 2 for us. Just a quirk of how it works through the restart M codes. All right. Hopefully this time it'll work a little bit better. That seems to have done it. I had to step down the blade section one more time and run it a little bit lower. And I'm still seeing some like artifacts left over from the roughing, and the finishes just aren't very good. Nothing that won't Scotch-Brite out, but so meh, I'm probably not gonna reuse this 3D printed fixturing technique on an actual customer part, but I'm glad that I got to play around with it. Let's get the next part in here and get started, and then start cleaning this knife up. All right, I just probed everything in. This time on my Z-axis, I'm gonna go shift my work coordinate system down by 1/1000th of an inch. On a Tormach, if you're shifting in this menu, you're saying, hey tool, you're 1/10 thou farther up than you think you are, which is backwards from how you would normally do it on like a Haas machine, where you would do it inside this work offset menu. So keep that in mind. If you want to go deeper, down here you type in plus, so plus 5 thou, plus 10 thou. If you want to go shallower, you go minus 5 thou, minus 10 thou, whatever. But if you are in the work offsets menu here, you would do the opposite, and you would minus 5 thou to go deeper, or plus 5 thou to go less deep. Just FYI, this confused me at first when I first switched to the Haas, because I always shifted offsets in here, and that is backwards than doing it up here. But we should be good to run this now. All right, and that should just go. Slightly improved code from this, but more or less the same thing. So while that's running, I'm gonna get this knife out of its fixture and try to make it look pretty. Since I don't care about saving this fixture, I think we should be able to just kind of squish the knife out of it. There we go. I'm not saying that it's looking great, but it should be good enough where we can finish it up nicely. The blade definitely did warp a little bit. It's hard to see, but the tip moved this way some. And also, I don't know what to call it, but the like flat there that's going to become the blade is definitely a lot thicker than I was intending. So there's some improvements to be made, but we'll see what I can do on a bench grinder and on a Scotch-Brite wheel to see if we can get this thing cleaned up. At very least, it's definitely not bad in the hand. Even now, it's not like sharp. So I'm not really getting any burrs off anything. The fillets did seem to match up pretty well. Okay, well, a whole bunch of hand finishing now, I think, is where we're at. So now we're at the part of this where I could potentially ruin everything. I have never sharpened a knife all the way from no edge. I've of course like sharpened my own knives, but going from scratch is something completely new for me. So this right now is a Warren 120 grit belt. I'm hoping this won't be too aggressive. I have a brand new one, but I don't think I want something quite that sharp. And then I have some finer grits that we can step through. Well, I'm not convinced I did a very good job, but I did do it. I'm gonna finish this off on some diamond stones I have. I think it's the best way to get the edge really honed in. I'm sure the people who know what they're doing are looking at me and just laughing right now. If you actually know what you're doing, if you're a knife maker or something, leave a comment down below telling me what I could do better. I don't plan on making this a product or anything. This is just a Christmas present. But it's probably not gonna be the last knife I ever make. Well, I need to make at least 2 more tonight, so it's definitely not gonna be the last knife I ever make. All right, so I think it's all done, and to my understanding from these knife making videos, it's tradition to prove it's a knife with a piece of paper. Maybe not as smooth as I've seen before, but it's a knife. So the fit and finish is good enough. I wouldn't sell it like this, but I think giving it to a family member, they would be perfectly happy with it. It's not knife nerd quality, but a Joe off the street, I don't think would have any issues with it. The design itself, I'm gonna give a solid like 7 out of 10 in terms of ergonomics. It's definitely a small knife. It was always supposed to be a small knife. Holding it like this is a little bit awkward for my size of hands, though it does work. You can also put 2 fingers through there, and this is a little bit more comfortable, or kind of more the intended is choke up on it like this. It also has a loop, which adds a nice fidget factor. People like to fidget with knives, and spinning them is a little bit dangerous, which makes it a little bit more fun. I try to work loops like this into my designs whenever I can, because it gives you so many different ways of holding it or fidgeting with it or whatever. You can also hang it, you can put a paracord on here. The loop gives you lots of different options. I'm not sure what I would change on this design-wise if I was given time to do another iteration. I have some machining things I would do, like the blade, I would want that to be all the way smoothed out. Maybe make it a little bit bigger on the handle still. But again, I like how compact this is. Here's a piece of oak dowel. Let's just see how it handles that. Just kind of a quick little whittling test. It's very comfortable for this actually, even in this grip. Well, I think it's time for me to go ahead and wrap this project up. I've got another knife on the way. I've got 1 more to make tonight before I go to bed so I can give them to family members on Christmas.